Now let's take a look at some proportions that will be a little bit more complicated than the basic ones we saw in the first video. We still want to do cross products, so -4 times 2 is -8, and that will equal the cross product of 3 times the quantity of x minus 1. Now you can't just write 3 times x. So you do need to write 3 parentheses, and 3 is being multiplied by everything up here. So you must use the distributive property when you have more than one item in the numerator or denominator of a cross product. So if you look at number 3, we only had one item in both parts. If you have 2, you have to set up parentheses. So now we're going to distribute to solve, and we get -8 equals 3x minus 3, and now you have a two-step equation. We will now add 3 to both sides. Be careful. -8 plus 3 is -5 equals 3x, and then we're going to divide by 3, and our final answer is -5/3 equals x. So this is a fraction answer, which is okay. If you're curious what the decimal is, -5 divided by 3, you could also write -1 2/3 or -1.6 repeating. But you may also just leave it as a fraction. Number 6, we're going to do the cross product of 5 times 1, which is 5, is equal to the cross product of 7 times the quantity x plus 3. You must write it using parentheses because we are going to need to distribute the 7 times the x and the 7 times the 3. So you must do the product of 7 times both items here, which is the distributive property. So we have 5 equals 7x plus 21. Now we're going to subtract 21 from both sides, and we get -16 equals 7x. And then we're going to divide by 7. So -16 over 7 is equal to x, or we can type in -16 divided by 7. That would be the same as about -2.29 or -2.3. Okay, let me do examples 7 and 8, and then we will save example 9 and 10 for the next video. For number 7, we're going to do the cross product of 3 times the quantity x minus 1, don't forget to put it in parentheses in order to distribute, equals the cross product of 6 times the quantity x plus 2. So now we've got to do the distributive property on the left, the distributive property on the right, and then we're going to solve this multi-step equation. So we get 3x minus 3 equals, and I encourage you to still draw your arrows so you don't forget, 6x plus 12. Now we are going to move the variables to each side. I'm going to move the 3x over here, so subtract 3x, and I get -3 equals 3x plus 12. And now I will subtract 12 to the other side, and I get -15 equals 3x. Divide by 3, -5 is x, is our final answer for number 7. And number 8, we're going to do the cross product of -5 times the quantity n minus 3 equals the cross product of -1 times the quantity n plus 8. So let's distribute, and we get -5n plus 15. Be careful, a negative times a negative is a positive. So if this would help in your notes, a negative times a negative is positive 15. Distribute the -1, and we get -1n minus 8. I am going to add 5n over here. So I'm going to have 15 equals, -1 plus 5 is 4n minus 8. I will now add 8 to both sides, and we get 23 equals 4n. Divide by 4. You may leave this as 23 over 4 equals n. You may write this as 5 3/4. So you could write this as 5 3/4 equals n. You could also write this as 5.75 equals n. So I would take any answer in these forms for number 8.